A lot of people consider the Shelby Cobra 427 SC to be one of the hairiest, nastiest sports racing cars ever built. To a large degree, they're absolutely right. All but unmanageable on the street. These cars were a handful even when set up for the track. Hi, I'm Joe Kelly Jr. This is the Car Room Magazine's Playing with Cars. It took great skill to drive a Cobra, and it takes a great eye for detail to make the car realistic in scale. That's why I'm pleased to say that tonight we're going to grab hold of Kyosho's stunning 1/12 scale release of the Shelby SC. Watch your hands, kids. This one bites. The Shelby Cobra 427 SC was to road-going sporting machines of the 60s what a magnum pistol is to paper target shooting. Introduced for public consumption in 1965, though still obviously Cobras, the 427 machines were easily distinguishable from their 289 powered counterparts, thanks to an air-gulping front end and cooling vents at the side, not to mention flared fenders to handle the beefier rubber and heavier suspension that the car required. On the track, the cars were very fast and very powerful, but just a little bit unrefined. They'd lost most of their balance, no doubt because of the extra weight that the big engine required when they parked it right behind the car's front wheels. The car had a beautiful shape and stance, and that's been captured perfectly by Kyosho in this great effort. There's a ton of refinement here from head to tail, not to mention one of the trickiest, slickest paint jobs I've seen around here in a while. The blue is a little bright when compared to historical photos I've seen, but I'll chalk that up to the metallic fire that's at work here, a dead-even luminescence that pulls available light around the car's muscular lines and accents the phenomenal job Kyosho's done with the sculpt. There are opening doors, hood and trunk, steerable posable wheels, and a working multi-element suspension, as well as a few added-on bits of secondary finger fun. The build quality is immediately apparent. There are zero paint flaws, glue smears, or misplaced pieces to be found anywhere. Adding to the great first impression is the slew of added-on details laid into and onto the car. Larger items like the windshield frame, the roll bar, and the bazooka caliber side pipes are lavishly chromed castings with no sign of mold parting lines or discernible means of attachment. They just hang where they should and add scabs of sparkle to the mix. Maybe too much sparkle. Cobra SCs had black roll bars and either flat white or flat black side pipes. Taken alongside the Goodyear Eagle tires, not yet available when the car was first made, and the electric cooling fans in the nose, I'm thinking that the Kyosho crew had their hands on a restored, modernized car when this one was a tooling. That's not a deal breaker, not for me. The balance of the on-skin detailing is equally as sweet. Check out the tiny metal fasteners all around the cockpit, the grommets set into the door tops, and the outstanding lensing at the front and rear. Scrunch your eyes a bit more and you'll appreciate the Cobra badges at the nose and tail and the 427 callouts on the car's sides. The cooling vents are metal slats set into a frame. That's a nice touch. And the permanently affixed Halobrand wheels are beautifully scaled and painted, revealing metal brake discs and calipers behind. Open the gas filler, lock the visors, and pose the wind wings and rear view mirror. This thing is a riot of great engineering, phenomenal shapes, and a really flawless build quality. A good cockpit is a requirement on a roadster model, and this one's got all the right stuff. In front of a metal spoke steering wheel with nice rivet detailing and a wood-toned rim is a dash that's got the correct industrial black finish and bezeled lensed gauges. These are so neatly registered that you can read them well enough to see that the numbers on the Speedo go backward. Ha! There's a metal directional stalk, impeccable little knobs and switches, and a pair of neat seats painted to look like leather, and doing the job just fine. Set out to the bump surfaces as full-on race harnesses, well worthy of the size and scale of the model. They've got photo-etched buckles and hasps and sewn-on Simpson labels, and they're installed with a completely believable gravity droop where they lay across the seat bottoms. From the back wall to the firewall, there's a bristling black flocking that sets the whole area off beautifully. This is great stuff and one of the highlights of the model. Of course, the main event lies just ahead of the windshield, and Kyosho amps up the detail all over the broad-shouldered 427. And it's clever stuff. Crunchy castings do the heavy lifting detail-wise, and the larger pieces support all manner of added-on bits rendered in styrene, vinyl, and a handful of metal. The airbox up top cradles a decent carb with a metal air filter screen, and secondary pieces like the coolant tank, the alternator, and the oil filter and base are tidy little assemblies that accent the size and scope of the big block's home turf. Sheet aluminum has been replicated using metallized styrene, and flexible vinyl hoses and wires are run everywhere to replicate electrical hookups, fluid reservoirs, and engine-to-gauge connections. A steel prop rod, metal hook, and stainless braid on the oil lines add a bit of nobility to the visual, and overall the area's depth and detail make it well worthy of display. You can almost smell the horsepower. The trunk's got a working latch. Just be careful here. The scale-correct plastic handle doesn't take too well to too many battles, but it opens up to reveal a nicely metallized boot. The lid stays up thanks to a friction strut, and the area is a great place to store the fabric tonneau cover that Kyosho's included with the car. This is a little tedious to install, given the small size of the grommets and posts, and though it looks great and gets very high marks for its crafting and fit, it hides that beauty of a cabin. Your call. Underneath is a very cool send-up of the Cobra's tube frame. The frame itself is a die-cast metal matrix onto which everything is installed, much as on the real Cobra. Photo-etched radiator screens lead the way to the aluminized oil pan and lower engine block, but I suggest you spend most of your time under here soaking in all the suspension detail front and rear. Steel coil springs carry the load, and convincingly, with every element of the car's double wishbone setup, save the front sway bar, following along when the wheels compress or rebound. There are e-brake cables run to the rears, and the back end of the car's running gear is a maze of half shafts, a fixed-in-place diff, and beautifully rendered A-frames and pivots. I like this one a lot, and I say that knowing full well that big models are a tough call for most collectors. Display space real estate can be hard to come by, and owners need to know that a model is going to keep them enthused and remain a centerpiece, at least until the next big beauty comes along. Now, given this one's build quality, its presence, and its overall excellence, that may take a while. I give it my very highest recommendation at a price of around $500. Well, that's it for this episode of Playing with Cars. For the Car Room Magazine, I'm Joe Kelly Jr. Thanks for coming down, and thank you for playing with cars. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, then.